What if I told you that someone in your life is going to lie to you today? Not a stranger. Someone close. Someone you trust. Someone whose word you would not ordinarily think to question. And the terrifying part, the part that should make you stop and actually think, is that you probably won't catch it. Not because you aren't intelligent, not because you aren't paying attention, but because nobody ever taught you what to look for. Research suggests that the average person is lied to somewhere between 100 and 200 times every single day. Most of those lies are small, harmless even, but some of them aren't. Some of them are the lies that cost you. Money, trust, relationships, decisions made on information that was never true. And the people telling them are not all strangers or villains. Your closest friend could be lying about where they were last night. A family member could be lying about something they did or didn't do. Your boss could be lying about why your work was rejected, what was really said in a meeting, what is actually going on with your position. The world is full of invented stories, and if you can't tell the difference between those and the truth, you are navigating it half-blind. Here is what changes that. For decades, the people whose literal job is to detect deception, intelligence officers, FBI interrogators, professional investigators, have been developing and refining specific techniques for identifying lies in real time, not based on gut feeling, not based on vague intuition, based on observable, repeatable patterns that the human body and mind produce when someone is constructing a story, rather than remembering one. These techniques work because lying is cognitively expensive. It requires your brain to simultaneously manage a fabricated narrative, monitor the listener's reaction, suppress the truth, and maintain consistency all at once. That load leaves traces, and once you know what those traces look like, you will start seeing them everywhere. Today I'm going to give you 7 of the most powerful methods these professionals use. By the time you finish this, you will have a completely different relationship with the conversations happening around you every day. Method 1. Ask the kind of question that makes liars sweat. Most people, when they suspect something is off, ask the worst possible kind of question. They ask yes or no questions. Did you go out last night? Were you really there? Did you actually do that? These questions are a gift to anyone who wants to lie to you. They require minimal cognitive effort to answer falsely. One word, no detail, nothing to keep track of. The liar smiles, says no, and walks away clean. Skilled interrogators do something fundamentally different. They don't ask whether something happened. They assume it happened and ask about the surrounding details. Instead of, did you go out last night, they say, why did you stay out so late? Instead of, were you at the store, they say, what was the store like when you got there? Instead of, did you take that, they say, what were you thinking when you decided to take it? Notice what this does. It removes the yes or no escape hatch entirely. Now the person in front of you must either tell the truth or construct a detailed, specific, coherent fabrication on the spot. And that is an entirely different cognitive challenge than just saying no. Truth-tellers can answer detailed questions easily because they're not constructing anything. They're just remembering. Liars, when pushed into detail, begin to struggle. The story gets thin. The specifics don't quite align. The details that should be there, the natural texture of a real memory, are conspicuously absent. Change the shape of your questions, and you change the entire game. Method 2. The 5-second window. This is the technique that feels like a superpower once you understand why it works. When you ask someone a question you genuinely want to know the answer to, something you have reason to suspect about, watch them carefully for exactly the first 5 seconds after the question lands, not 10, not 2, 5. Because those 5 seconds are when the body is least controlled, least managed, most honest. The person's conscious mind is busy formulating a response, and in that moment of cognitive occupation, their body starts speaking on its own. What you are watching for. Do they touch their face, their mouth, their nose, their neck? Do their eyes move in a way that's inconsistent with how they usually look at you? Is there a pause that feels slightly too long for a simple question? Does the pitch or pace of their voice shift? Do they swallow, blink more rapidly, or briefly look away at the exact moment the question registers? Here is the critical rule. One of these signs means almost nothing. People touch their faces all the time. Voices shift for a dozen innocent reasons. What matters is clusters, 2 or more signs appearing together in that narrow window of 5 seconds. When you see a cluster, you are watching someone whose body is responding to internal conflict between what they know and what they are about to say. That conflict has a signature, and you just learn to read it. After 5 seconds, a practiced liar has usually steadied themselves. They've found their footing in the fabrication. But those first 5 seconds, before the performance is fully assembled, that is where the truth leaks through. Method 3. Establish the baseline first. This is the method FBI behavioral analysts use before they ever get to the hard questions, and it is probably the most underestimated technique on this list. Before you ask anyone anything you genuinely want to know the truth about, spend time watching how they behave normally. Not suspiciously, just observing. How do they sit? How fast do they talk? How much do they move their hands? Do they make steady eye contact or look around naturally? What does their voice sound like when they're relaxed and telling you something they have no reason to hide? This is their baseline. The template for what honest behavior looks like in this specific person. This matters because deception detection is not about universal signals. It is about deviation. There is no single behavior that means someone is lying, because people are different. Some honest people look away when they think. Some truthful people speak slowly. Some genuine people are nervous in conversations by default. What you are looking for is not any particular behavior in isolation. It is a departure from that person's own established pattern. When someone who always makes easy, comfortable eye contact with you suddenly starts studying the table, that's a signal. When someone who speaks quickly in normal conversation suddenly slows down and becomes deliberate on a specific topic, that's a signal. When the person who always uses their hands while talking suddenly sits perfectly still, that's a signal. You are reading the gap between who they normally are and who they are being right now, in this moment on this subject. That gap is where the information lives. Build the baseline before you need it. The investment takes minutes. What it gives you back is a personal code for that individual that only you can read. Method 4. The double-check trap. This one is elegant in its simplicity and devastatingly effective in practice. Ask about the same thing twice. Not consecutively. That's too obvious. Ask once, let the conversation move naturally into other territory, then circle back 10 or 15 minutes later and ask again, framed differently. You went to the cinema last night, right? Then later, what was the film like that you saw yesterday? Here is what happens. A person telling the truth doesn't have to manage their answer. They just have to remember what happened. Real memories are stable. The details stay consistent because they are anchored in actual experience. The truth doesn't require maintenance. Ask a truthful person the same question 10 different ways, and you will get the same core answer every time, because there is only one version of what actually occurred. A liar, by contrast, is managing a manufactured story. They have to remember not what happened, but what they said happened. And those are completely different cognitive tasks. When you return to the same subject from a different angle, the liar must locate their previous answer, recall its exact details, and produce something consistent with it while you're watching. Most people cannot do this reliably. The story shifts. A detail that was present the first time is absent the second. A timeline that worked before suddenly doesn't quite add up. The invented version of events has a structural weakness that real memory doesn't. It exists only in one place, and that place is under pressure. Patience is the only thing this method requires. Give it time. Come back to it calmly. The gap between the two answers will tell you everything. Method 5. Listen for the language of escape. This is one of the most overlooked signals in everyday conversation, and once you hear it, you will never stop noticing it. When people are lying about something they consider significant, something where being caught has real consequences, they instinctively build escape routes into their language. They hedge. They qualify. They introduce uncertainty into statements that, if true, they would have no reason to be uncertain about. Instead of "I was at home all evening," they say "I'm pretty sure I was home most of the evening." Instead of "I didn't take it," they say "I don't think I would have taken." Instead of "We never talked about that," they say "I don't really remember us discussing anything like that." Words like probably, maybe, I think, I believe, I suspect, more or less. These are the vocabulary of someone who is afraid to commit fully to what they're saying. And the reason they're afraid to commit is that committing creates a fixed point that can be checked, verified, and contradicted. The hedge is insurance. If they're caught, they can say, I said I thought I was home, I wasn't certain. They preserve deniability by making even their lies imprecise. Pay close attention to this pattern specifically. When someone is telling you something that should be definite, if you ask someone where they were last night, and they answer with probably or I think, that probability is doing a great deal of work. Certainty about your own recent actions is not a high bar. The absence of that certainty, in a moment where certainty should be natural, is worth noting. Method 6. Watch for the topic change. Every liar has a panic response. It activates when the conversation moves close enough to the truth that they can feel the ground shifting beneath them. And almost universally, that panic response takes the same form. They try to move the conversation somewhere else. It won't necessarily be dramatic. It will often look completely natural. That's what makes it so effective as an escape mechanism. Suddenly they remember something funny they meant to tell you. Suddenly they need to check their phone. Suddenly they're asking about something completely unrelated, or making an observation about the room, or introducing a new topic with an ease that almost disguises the urgency behind it. The subject change arrives right at the moment the real subject was getting warm. When you notice this happening, when the conversational pivot comes at a moment of increasing pressure rather than natural transition, do not follow the redirect. Stay on the original ground. Do it without aggression, without making it feel like a trap closing. Just say calmly, we can get to that in a second. Tell me more about what you were saying first. Then watch the response. Watch the discomfort that has nowhere to go, now that the exit has been gently blocked. Watch what they do when they are brought back to the territory they were trying to leave. The panic tells you where the truth is. Follow the discomfort, not the deflection. Method 7. Add a detail that isn't true and watch what happens. This is the most disarming technique on this list because it looks like a mistake. And that is exactly why it works. In the middle of a conversation about something you want to verify, casually introduce a false detail as if you believe it to be true. Nothing dramatic, just a small factual error woven into your phrasing. Right, because it was raining when you were there, when you don't actually know whether it was raining. Oh, so you took the highway when you don't know which route they took. Now watch what happens. A person who was actually there, a person with a real memory of real events, will correct you, almost automatically. No, actually it wasn't raining. We didn't take the highway, we went the other way. They don't think about whether to correct you. They just do. Because the false detail conflicts with what they actually remember, and real memory is corrective by nature. The truth pushes back against errors instinctively. A person who is lying cannot afford to correct you, because the moment they correct a detail, they are drawing attention to their knowledge of the situation, and drawing attention to their knowledge is dangerous when their presence is what's in question. So they absorb the error. They go along with the rain you invented, the route you fabricated. They are so focused on maintaining the larger fiction that they accept your small false detail as cover, not realizing that their willingness to accept it has just told you everything. One correction and they are likely telling the truth. Silence, agreement, or a vague yes, something like that in response to your false detail, and you have found your answer. 7 methods. Each one used by professionals whose jobs depend on being able to tell the difference between what happened and what someone wants them to believe happened. And now they are yours. A few things worth carrying with you as you use them. First, context always matters. These techniques reveal signals, not verdicts. A single signal in isolation, even a strong one, does not mean someone is lying. What builds a picture is combination and pattern. When multiple signals appear together, when the baseline deviates on a specific topic, when the language hedges and the topic changes and the false detail goes uncorrected, that convergence is telling you something real. Second, your instincts are part of the toolkit. When something feels wrong before you can articulate why, that feeling is your brain processing signals faster than your conscious mind can catalog them. These 7 methods give your instinct something to work with, a framework for checking what your gut is already suspecting. Use both. The techniques sharpen the instinct. The instinct guides when to use the techniques. Third, the goal is not to become suspicious of everyone. Most of what people tell you is true. Most of the people in your life are not running active deceptions. What these methods give you is not paranoia. It is literacy. The ability to read a language that was always being spoken around you. Whether you understood it or not, now you understand it. Use it carefully. Use it wisely. And the next time someone sits across from you and begins to construct a story that doesn't quite hold together, you will know. Before they finish, before they think you've noticed, you will already know.